What's up, guys? Welcome back to Spurdunky and Friends, the Indie Game Devs show. Today we're live on Twitch. I'm a level designer with Coral Wave and a game developer with North Force Games. Check out northforce.com. It's in progress. We've got some Tasme Studio in the chat. Previous guest, Fred, a nice guy. He's got a Kickstarter going right now. Oh yeah, so this is Cosmic Meatballa Part 2. So Part 1, we set out to start and complete a game during stream, but unfortunately, my PC crashed. But maybe fortunately, today we've got a returning guest, Jabobs or Nate from Coral Wave, gonna help with the convo flow while we work on some stuff. And then today, my co-host is my brother Mike, Cybernetic Druid. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Cybernetic Druid. You can call me Mike. I'm a software engineer. I work on games and crypto and web stuff. You can find more about me on northforcegames.com or cyberneticdruid.com.
Hey guys, I'm Nate. You can call me Jabobs or whatever. I don't really care. I am, I work on Coral Wave, so that's my business with my friend. And we're working on some pretty cool projects. I also work on Coral Halo Fan Game. It's a project that I started a few years ago, and so those are mostly the stuff that I work on, and I mostly do programming, a little bit of everything though. So I've done some modeling, I've done some sound design, I've done this and that, and yeah.
All right, so I've got a list of things I want to go over, but just to catch up at our progress of the meatball game, last I checked, we do have it working. Like it's a ball. It's a on Mike's version. There's no art, but before my computer crashed, I had the animator set up, but I don't think that saved. I don't know if you have the project up right now, Mike, but I believe we had the pipes. Like if it's Flappy Bird, they spawn in, and then we have the Flappy Bird mechanics, right?
Yeah, as far as the basic game loop works and collisions and the pipe spawning and flapping. I'm opening up right now. I made a new repo on GitHub. I sent you an invite.
Okay, where'd you send that at?
Let me make sure I got the right account.
Yeah, I think
it's the same account that you have the Obsidian. Yeah, it's the same account.
All right, and just to catch up, Nate. So the meatball game, it's based off of an idea we came up with like back in 2015, and it wasn't going to be a Flappy Bird clone. we just came up with that because we thought that'd be easier to make.
Yeah. What was the original game idea?
It was just going to be like a endless runner, it was also going to serve as like in lore propaganda for another game. So it was going to get like crazier and crazier the longer you played. Like it was going to have like Italian music playing that like got faster and faster.
I love that. That reminds me of the pizza mission from the Spider-Man game, where you just hear the, what was it, that one Italian song, and yet it's like a time trial or whatever.
Pizza time. Games are classic. I forget, how do I sync this up? Can I do it straight from the top version?
You have GitHub Desktop?
Yeah.
So what you'll want to do is clone the repo.
I got it.
Yeah.
Super sweet.
And I'm just going to make sure it runs real quick. Do a quick smoke test. And then I'll check in this version I have.
While you're doing that, there is some... I wanted to do a shout out to the Facebook group, indiegamesdeveloper.com. They're a digital magazine. And they allowed us to we can post Spelunky and Friends stuff on there. And they're also on Twitter, but I think their main thing is the indiegamesdeveloper.com, and they're gonna like shout out indie game projects and stuff. They have a pretty decent following, and on their Facebook group, they allow you to ask questions and stuff like that. So like their whole community chime in, and I've found a lot of projects through there. So it's a marketing avenue for any game devs out there.
Is it called indiegamesdeveloper.com
Yeah.
with an S? Indie Games.
Yeah, indiegamesdeveloper.com.
Cool.
At least that's how I have it written down. And then another thing I wanted to address is when I've been listening back, I say awesome a lot. And I just think it's annoying for me listening back. I'm going to try to not say awesome. And like, this is what I mean. Like, someone's explaining something for like 10 minutes, and then I'm like, awesome.
Awesome. And then the next question. Bam.
And listening back, it sounds like I'm just trying to be like, okay, and then what? You know what I mean? Like almost dismissing like what they're saying, but that's not how I meant it.
Cool story,
Yeah.
bro. Right.
It's
But
like,
who asked?
it's my way of saying sometimes is awesome. And then oh yeah, I don't think we ever mentioned that Vertextualizer was a Blender plugin. So someone who goes back to the first episode and curious what Vertextualizer is, it's going to be a Blender plugin that will be public at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the first episode, we also had Mike / Cybernetic Druid had to step out before we started streaming that episode. And something I wanted to bring up again was your experience towards being told that computers were just a fad when you were in high school.
Oh, like the internet was a fad? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, it was weird. Like we'd have a class where it was just like internet time or computer time. It was like we don't know what you're going to be doing with the computers, but you probably need to know about computers, so have fun. And we'd just be watching, like, well, it was before YouTube. It would be like stick figure death theater, you know, like these weird homemade animations and like doing these, looking at weird. There was all kinds of weird.
Yeah, stick figure
stuff.
deathmatch.
Yeah, like,
I used to watch stuff like that.
Well, probably before that, it was like individual people doing this.
It was like ebombsworld.com or something, right?
Yeah, probably whatever the precursor to that was, and or like the .com crash, right? So right around 2000, any stock that had anything to do with the internet at all, like if you had a splash page, and back then it was just basically HTML. Even like JavaScript didn't even work on all the browsers the same way, you know. These guys were just making millions overnight, you know. They were like rock stars, and then it all came crashing down. It was a big bubble. And so at that time, I had people telling me like, yeah, computers are neat, but you know, maybe think about doing trades, maybe think about doing, you know, whatever. But then you know, there was a recession, right? And so we weren't building houses. So like that, you know, whatever you do, there's going to be kind of boom and bust periods, you know, overall. And yeah, it's been weird seeing how the internet has changed over time. And now it's like, well, now, you know, the latest thing was like crypto. Well, now everyone thinks crypto is a scam because all the prices crashed. But it's going to come back up, and there's going to be more scam coins, you know. If you look at about every 4 years, there's like a big pump in crypto, because the price of, or the reward for mining Bitcoin gets cut in half every 4 years. And so I think it's next year that whenever the next halvening is, there will probably be another big run, and it'll be whatever the latest coins are. And then the NFT thing, right? Everyone went overboard with NFTs, even though they're not as amazing as everyone thought they were for a few months. But there are things you can do with them. Now it's AI. Now AI is the big rush to get on AI, and I've really been fighting the urge to just jump into AI, because even this year I've already seen companies rise and fall, because basically they'll jump in and they'll be like, oh well, now you can use ChatGPT from Excel, and they just wrote like a macro or something, and that's their entire business. And so yeah, they got a bunch of sales. Maybe they made $100,000 in a week, but now 2 months later that business is obsolete. Like there's really no point for it in the first place. And so I guess we'll see how it goes. But yeah, just like the internet was a fad, and
awesome,
crypto was a fad. Now AI is a fad, but they're going to stick around. It's going to change how we use it, and we'll find, just like with any technology, there's trade-offs, right? You can do it, fast, good, or cheap, and pick two, right? It's just a new set of trade-offs, and so there'll be certain things where crypto is better, and certain things where AI will be better, and both of those together have a lot of potential to really change a big chunk of our economy and how things are done. And just like the internet today changed how we think about things, like you think back, like when you were a little kid, the idea of like Uber Eats or something,
like you could just order food and it comes to your house, like
yeah, and there was like Pizza Hut and stuff, but it wasn't like you didn't go in the store and get it. You didn't like And now they'll bring it right in your house, put it in your fridge. It's like, I don't even want that.
Yeah, I actually have some thoughts on this, because I do think I've always had this idea. Like, I know that NFTs are going to eventually come back and actually probably be a mainstay or something like it, because it's a lot like I think it's the solution. We created a problem with NFT art that like it didn't need a solution, right? Like NFT art was not the solution to the problem of NFTs finding a use case, because really those like the images were just an implementation of the back end idea of digital ownership. Digital ownership could be applied to something like game licenses. Instead of buying a disc, you could buy an NFT. The NFT holds the data or a link to the data, but is also a way that you can prove that you own this game, meaning you don't have to connect to Xbox Live, you don't have to connect to Steam or whatever just for them to see that you own it. Your account gets banned from online services, you still technically own that game because you own the NFT, and they can't take it away from you. It's digital ownership. You can sell it to, put it on a market and sell it just like you could sell your game. Like if you bought a disc, you could, trade it into GameStop. It's just the digital version of physical ownership, and people jumped on it using freaking pictures of monkeys and stuff like that instead of actually saying, yeah, maybe we should use this technology to revolutionize a system that like is kind of scary. I'm not a huge fan of like Web 2.0's version of quote unquote ownership, buying a game off of Xbox Live and then Xbox Live goes down, or you go into a rural area and now you can't play that game. Like NFTs could be the solution. Exactly.
And with NFTs, you can cut out like GameStop totally, right? It's not
GameStop.
You
could just
there's no middleman saying, "Oh, you bought this game last week. Well, I'll give you $3 for it," and then they
exactly.
It's the going rate, right? And so and what you're talking about, I've already started. Like that's some of the low level stuff that I was telling you about earlier, and like looking into how to do this, like but I think first the way to do it is like crypto optional. So that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
that's how I'm that's kind of like what I'm working on as far as like behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So
That makes sense.
But yeah, it's and actually that use case isn't even that. It's not even that complicated.
Yeah, and
So
that's the thing
it's
that's what makes me mad is that like I'm like now NFTs names are tarnished because people were using
mm,
little goofy pictures and selling, variations of goofy pictures
mhm,
when an easy use case could, be very effective and very like, the public doesn't have to know the word NFT, right? Now they
mhm,
do, and now it's,
mhm,
tarnished because
mhm.
of what people, oh, I'm going to try to make a quick buck by selling a monkey picture,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's kind of not the mission of Coral Wave, where like Tori and I are really trying to come up with these solutions and build systems that could have those positive impacts in the industry long term. And I feel like writing that success is a lot more of a fulfilling success than
Mhm,
like you were saying. I made $100,000 in a week, and then now my
mhm.
business is obsolete. Because
Yeah.
all the people that did all the monkey picture stuff, that's
Mhm.
all obsolete now. Nobody's buying
Yep.
NFTs, at least not in the public eye. You know,
Yeah. Well,
so
when the halving happens, the prices will go back up, and there'll be
yeah.
a new wave of or like just the recent one is someone made a coin based on Pepe the Frog. It's like Pepe coin or something, and it already pumped and crashed. Um, and I don't know. I mean, they don't always pump again. There's tons of just like think of like penny stocks, right?
Yeah,
The next pump, maybe it'll pump again, but you don't know.
that's why
But yeah,
it's right
mhm,
now I would just not touch it too much unless you're doing something new with it, kind of like what I was
mhm,
saying before.
yeah,
That's with crypto. With AI, I don't think centering your entire business around, like you were saying, doing that. But like if you had leveraged AI in your business, and are willing to kind of install it, quote unquote, not physically
mhm,
install it, but I guess theoretically install it as something that either you could hire someone to do,
mhm,
just in case AI crashes or there's some laws, or also like be able to replace it with a more capable AI in the future, so you're not stuck on an old AI system. Being
mhm,
adaptable like that. If you have
yeah,
that, then using AI in your business right now is completely fine. You
yeah,
generate AI for inspirations for level concept art, how you want your level to look. Well, a human can do that too. You give it the same parameters you would give as the text input, but also
mhm,
later in the future, a new image generation model could come out and you can replace it and just say, put in the same prompt and it'll give you prettier pictures, or like
mhm,
higher quality pictures, or even, generate the textures for your level too. Like, you can do that. And as long as you retain enough of a workflow that allows those like allows for a fallback, I think you will have a much more sustainable business than relying on, okay, my business is around, selling one plugin for that's, leverages AI, right? I mean, yeah, you could build other plugins that leverage AI, or you could just, build your business out to become a um, we build, tools for for existing software suites and, but then you have a lot more work for a lot less output. And it's just one of those things that like I feel like if you're going to start using, what people consider these fad technologies, whether it's crypto, whether it's AI, you have to be smart about how your if your product is AI, make sure you don't become obsolete within, a month, because look at like Dolly. Dolly is a lot better now than it used to be.
mhm,
But in its early stages, like it was really rough, and then Midjourney came along and you're like, oh my gosh, like Midjourney's creating these like, almost realistic pictures that like, it's almost it's in that uncanny valley. And Dolly over here is still making the I can barely make out what it's trying to do, but I guess that's
mhm,
cool. And then nowadays it's better, but that's because they had to put a lot of time and energy and money into making it a better technology. But they only did that because they had ChatGPT. They started
mhm,
ChatGPT Plus. A
mhm,
lot of that. OpenAI had the pockets for that, but not every company is going to have the pockets to be
yeah,
able to to sustain their models or to improve upon their models. So
Yeah, and
that's
I've
my
been
take on it.
playing with this AI stuff since I think the first one I played with was Google Deep Dream. It was like back in 2015 or something, and it was the one where you can upload a picture and then it searches a bunch of Google pictures and tries to create an image based on the one that you made. But part of the problem was like people take a bunch of pictures of like animals and faces, and so it would generate these pictures with tons of eyes everywhere, like dog eyes, and it could be like a person. It looks like a person, but there's it looks like a parrot head is on their shoulder with an eyeball and part of a beak, or their ear might look like an eyeball from some other animal. And yeah, between what was it, Dolly and I played with some other ones before, but Dolly got popular, and then
There was that NVIDIA one.
Midjourney.
I don't know if you touched the NVIDIA one where like you could
I haven't
draw
played with that one.
it's like just you draw like colors
Oh,
and it'll
yeah,
yeah.
I played with that one a little bit, but I'm trying to just look at it as like a user, so I'll use Midjourney
Yeah.
for like basically stock art, stock pictures.
Yeah.
If I want to tweet or something, I'll generate a picture real quick, and I don't have to bother Spurdunky for placeholder art or a blog post or whatever.
Mhm.
Got to generate something.
I mean, if you
Um,
have an existing thing, you could definitely use AI to continue on that existing thing. So, what I mean by that is like, say you write a blog about video game stuff and you go in depth on, I don't know, Halo, right? Well, ChatGPT, GPT-4 knows a ton about Halo. Give it your, most recent blog posts because it can take 35,000 words into context or some crazy number like that as opposed to 3,000 with the standard chat GPT.
mhm.
And say write it in the style of this, but write about this other thing, right? Like I know the topic but I don't feel like writing it. I mean, you can use it. It'll take your style, understand how you write, and write it in as if you wrote the text, you know what I mean? So it's uniquely your style without because you could tell it just to write the article about X, Y, and Z, but then readers are going to be able to tell this not only reads differently, but if you're kind of keen on that, if you have a keen eye, you can kind of tell it was written by AI, so you'd be able to tell. But if it uses a lot of the same mannerisms that you do, then you could definitely create your content almost automatically. Build the entire article. If you need a picture, just Midjourney, like you could definitely cut out most of maintenance work on existing products and projects by using AI. And I think that's a really good use case for it because it allows people to kind of be more creative and do other things without having to worry about, okay, I'm going to have to write, a 10,000 word article about this phone that just came out and I'm comparing it to another phone that already exists and like none of that anymore. Just take a picture of both the phones, give it the points that are good about the new Galaxy and versus the new iPhone, and let it give it the outline and it'll write out the details. And that's the thing. I think I think that a lot of publications and stuff will go that way. And while it's good to have like concise and good to have like a lot of like human written things, I do think that people will start using AI like that. And I don't think, I mean, not all of it is bad. Some of it, yeah. It's definitely better to have a human at least read and review the content before publishing it. But you know, there's so many things that like you could have, be right on top of news stories in like, 10 times the amount of speed that you normally would have had, where someone's going to have to write out, a news article about some recent event, and you could just give it the bullet points because you have to build those anyway, and you could be the first to the punch with a news article, and if someone looks it up and you're the top one because you were the first and so you have more views, then you could really become more competitive. in like in that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I'm
in
kind of
that
mixed.
sense, it's really helpful, especially if you already kind of have an understanding of what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Of
But kind of moving on from a little bit, I want
course.
to address the chat. Solo Studios says digital ownership and digital contracts hold a lot of potential. And it says thoughts on Axie Infinity and other blockchain games. I'm not familiar with Axie Infinity. I don't know
I've
if you guys are.
I've heard of Axie Infinity. I've never played it, but I know what it is. Um, because I think I invested in a little bit of their coin at one point, or I got it for free or something like that. I At one point I owned a little bit of Axie. So I looked it up and realized it was a digital game. I think it's inherently crypto in games is kind of malicious. I know that's kind of and what I that kind of completely contradicts what I was saying with NFTs, because the NFTs aren't about the NFTs being in games. It's NFTs, having ownership of said game instead of the blockchain being introduced and used within the game itself. So if you're using the blockchain in terms of currency in a game, like I feel like you're just setting up a slot machine. That's really like the way I
Yeah.
can that is the only kind of thing that comes to mind, like not a slot machine just or not just a slot machine, but like you're basically you're implementing finances into a video game.
Yeah, it's
Like
almost like a new microtransaction type of just another way to squeeze, but with
yeah.
the promise of getting rich. Like, oh, play this game, you're going to earn money as you do it. Um, but it's a zero sum game, so you got people grinding for hours and hours for. And I haven't played these games specifically, but I'm not a fan of
Yeah,
the
but
idea of like
play to
play to
earn.
earn.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I mean, it really. I think it depends on the implementation because I think you could have. If you look at like phone games, right? You could have a simple game that's $3. You download it and it's a solid game, and then maybe the add-ons are like, well, double experience, but it's like a one time another $3, and you're just kind of doing it to support the developer. Or you could
Hmm.
have a game where they made a fun game but they put you in the pinch and everything is designed to stress you out, and then the way out is to pay, right,
Yep.
and buy more and more and more, and everything's about the whales, like the guys that are going to dump thousands of dollars into this little simple phone game. So I could see, and like I said, I haven't played any play to earn games. I've been more like working on just building, learning how the infrastructure works and how do these systems work rather than playing some of these games. But I
Yeah.
think it depends
Speaking
on the
of games,
implementation. Um,
yeah, I think there's a way to do it. I'm not to fully get into it, but we've kind of talked about an idea. Each NFT gives you your own unique copy of the game, and so your uniqueness, whatever it is, whether it's a skin or you have a character, whatever it is, you could trade that with other people. Um, but the meatball game that we're working on, that file that comes through GitHub for me is not a game.
yeah, I'm about to check in. I just
Oh,
imported
okay.
all the different folders. I'm about to check in. I just need to change projects. I'm bad at talking and like actually doing work, so
No worries.
trying to keep moving. But
I'm
we're
gonna
killing
change my
time. But
screen to what I'm working on. Hopefully,
I have one more thought on the blockchain stuff before we continue.
I'll go for it.
If it was used in place of, like, say for instance the CS:GO marketplace, you know how CS:GO has the skin marketplace and you can resell your skins and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like, if you implemented it in that way, it would basically be the same thing I was talking about with NFT game ownership, except you would just use it for skin ownership. And that's the only other use case I can think of, in terms of blockchain technology in a game that would be like acceptable, at least in my eyes. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm open to seeing what people do, but like that's I can't think of another one that doesn't seem scammy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's one that I just heard about, but it's more like a test. There's a few test games. So there's this framework called Mud, and Mud 2 is either out or it's about to come out. Um, and the games that I've seen, they're on the Optimism chain, and they actually put the data for the world on the chain. So they made like a simple voxel game. I'll have to find the name of it, but
that's
it's like
interesting.
anyone can and there's like no money really. It's just, and I think what the potential for the things they're building, Mud, it has potential to change the way that we think about blockchain apps in general. Um, because it kind of adds a layer of abstraction, so you don't have to worry about the graph and some of that stuff. You can think of it more like tables, like traditional database tables.
Hmm.
But yeah, this particular one, and someone also made one. I was playing it the other day, and it's just on a test network, but it's kind of like Factorio. It's a very basic thing, kind of like Factorio, and the whole map, all the data is on chain, and then when you jump in, you get test crypto to kind of be able to do things like place machines and extract, coal and iron, and like send it down these little tubes into your base, um, and so it it has the potential to kind of increase like freedom, like as far as just like an NFT, like okay, I own this copy of the game, no one can tell me I can't sell it, right?
Exactly.
Um, but you could lock it down. You could set up permissions on your smart contract. You could do it on chain, and you could treat it like a centralized thing. Now, whether your players would like that or not, the market will figure that out. But you could set up permissions, and you could, like the CS:GO thing you were saying, you could prevent outside people from just well, they could still just play the game. But you could make it where it's not like Axie Infinity, where the coin is just out there, anyone can buy it. You could make it a
Yeah.
closed system if you wanted to, or you could
Yeah.
make it open, depending on how you want to do it. So it really, um, and the persistent world thing is interesting because it's like that voxel world is it's permanent on, I think it's on Optimism, and then you can even claim chunks. But if someone comes by and they want to pay more for that chunk, they can buy the stuff you built, and they own it now. They can destroy it or keep it or whatever. So,
America.
right, yeah. It's like, oh, I own this now. What? So,
That's an interesting idea. See, I like it that they're using it in a way that's not just, hey, we're basically making a pyramid scheme in the form of a game.
mhm.
Very cool. And yeah, we've thought about like if we launch like some sort of NFT system with a game, we're going to be upfront like hey, like we trying to do like some cool ideas, but we also are trying to get funding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of thinking of like crypto optional, like and like you said, it's a copy of the game, but you get an item. That was I was trying to come up with a system where you're just like providing overwhelming value, right? I want to make it so like people can't even believe that they're getting that much.
Yeah.
And then with some of the, I don't want to spill all the beans, but um, you create this kind of, maybe not an ecosystem, because well, the other thing about it is if it's a copy of a game, it's not necessarily limited to a certain number, right? Because you want to sell copies of your game, so it would be like an open mint. It's like however many people want to buy it, like that's how many people are going to buy it. And so maybe if you did like, you could close out the contract every year or something, and so like maybe early versions of the game are become rare like over time, kind of like cards or something, like old Magic cards, right?
Yeah.
But the point is not to be oh, this is an exclusive club, you need to bring $10,000 to join it. It's more like everyone bring your $25 or whatever. Or if you want to get a used copy, what just has like some random, maybe it's not the best item, you might pay $2, and that doesn't hurt us because someone already paid full price for it. They already paid for a copy of the game, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a way you can do it to provide value. Have an outlet. If someone wants to collect all the items, they can buy multiple copies. Or, but it's a thing where the whales help everyone else that they can get a cheaper copy. So
that makes sense.
And I think that's something where tiny teams can outcompete these big companies, right? Because if you're going to make a AAA game, you got to come up with millions of dollars. You've got hundreds of employees. You've got this really tight schedule. But with a small team and these tools like AI and crypto and things, like especially with NFTs, we don't need to get approved from Apple. Like we could make a version for Apple Store, but we don't need them. We could make a version for Steam. We don't absolutely have to get approved by them.
That's true.
And we can pivot and we can be generous with what we're offering way more than what a larger company can do. And then these tools like AI and stuff, it's almost like a force multiplier of what, a small team can accomplish.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting. It's an opportunity to kind of do new things that people have never done. It's a blue sky, it's a new area to explore.
Who's going to hit the clouds? That's the real question. Who's going to be able to make it through the clouds and see the sun? And that's the biggest thing with how can who's going to be successful from the endeavors? I mean, think of all the people that built computers in the 70s and 80s, right? Most of them are not here anymore. Some of them are the tech giants. Some of them are not never to be heard again in terms of nobody owns a gateway computer anymore. Nobody or a compact, but those computers were around way back when, or nobody owns an Amiga or a Commodore. It's one of those things where it's a lot of fun to jump on the fad and be part of history. You just have to figure out a business model that'll make you a Microsoft or make you an Apple.
Easy.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at it like
if you have a Microsoft idea, put it in the comments. Leave a
like.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at it like the way AI is it elevates people to anyone can be an intermediate in just about any in an instant.
Yep.
So, maybe a legal document, right? I'm not a lawyer, but I could generate a document that looks like a legal document. Maybe it's good enough to
pass off.
Pass off for maybe you've got a tenant or something, or maybe you've got I don't have tenants, but maybe you've got some kind of, maybe you're going to rent a room to someone, sublet. Maybe you've got an apartment, you're going to rent one room out to someone, and so that's a low risk contract, right?
Yeah, something that you'd want a legal document. You're not going to go spend money on a lawyer to get this all figured out, but you just want to say, hey, don't punch a hole in the wall.
Yeah, but it's something that okay, you sign this, and but if a lawyer looks at that, the AI generated, they're going to go, this is garbage. There's no way this is going to hold up in court. And maybe that's true. And I don't know if this example is holding up, but I guess the point is that everyone's an intermediate at everything now. But we don't, unless you're an expert in a field, you can't tell where the AI is wrong. Yeah. And so some people are generating simple games and stuff with AI, but they don't never written a line of code. And so it looks really impressive if you don't know how to write code, but some of the code that it's writing is kind of
atrocious.
Well, yeah, and if there's a bug, it's a logical bug, and it's going to be hard to debug. It's not going to, it may not be efficient. And then when you got to pay someone to fix it, it's going to take way
forever, because they're going to rewrite the whole freaking thing because they're like, this is garbage.
Yeah,
usually. That's why I think companies are going to start consisting of systems designers and high level people that basically know the this is how the system should work, or this is how the systems we need. But instead of having the people that sit there and write the code all day, they can ask the AI to build the system to their specification, right? The people who develop the specifications are going to be the people that stay in the job industry, because they can tell the AI, if they have that and they're good at prompting AI, they could build that system all by themselves with with AI there. Just build the AI needs to be able to build something to a certain spec, and if it does, then you're good to go. And that should work in a lot of cases. You're still going to have places probably like Microsoft where they're going to have they're not going to have AI build the Windows code base, or Xbox Live's security infrastructure. But for most developers or most software development companies, I feel like AI is going to replace the people that just know how to write code. Not the people that know what systems need to be built, right? And maybe even they know how those systems should be built, so they can tell the AI to do it exactly a certain way. But if you feed it like documentation as context, like, this is our current documentation, I need to build a system with this spec, that needs these functions that do this, all that's like what you would tell someone in a presentation in a meeting, right? This is the system we need, this is how we need it done. Instead of paying that person to do it, you could have the AI do it for free. So again, it goes down to how people use it. Sure, it might not be the most efficient, but when better AI comes along, that system design is still valid system design. Maybe you could have this improved AI both improve the code itself or also improve the system design in general. And it's only once you get to that point, you're basically, leaving out everyone but the executives. I need like the businessmen who just look at the money and say, I want a thing that does this, right? They don't know the specifics of it. The AI, once it's able to replace the systems designer and the programmer, that's when that's when society is going to completely change.
Yeah. But I think like what you're saying was like the expert level will stay. I think it's going to happen in every industry. So I think so what that's going to do is we're going to need less people for any given company. Like Microsoft's going to need less people, right, to do what they do now. But maybe it will create a situation where smaller companies can more easily compete
with bigger companies,
right? And
bigger companies can also umbrella out more, so they can build new teams for products and projects that they probably wouldn't do because they're spending so much time and money maintaining certain things. So that's the beautiful thing, but also it's kind of scary because now Microsoft could come out with they could come out with new hardware that is the best hardware on the market. They can come out with a new version of Windows. They can come out with a phone operating system that doesn't suck this time around. They can come out with I guess they already have their own search engine, but you see my point. Like, they could kind of dip their toes into even more than what they already do, and maybe they'll revive a lot more of their gaming studio or game IPs that they own, because now they have AI that can just help generate the art, help generate the code, and they can quickly build and whip up, titles for game franchises that not a lot of people would buy, but also the people that would buy it, I mean, that's income that wasn't made before, and they spent barely any money because they just used AI on some Azure cloud to generate half of the game, so.
Yeah, but I guess what I was like where we spun off here was you were trying to come up with an idea to become the next Microsoft. My point is that you don't need to be the next Microsoft. I think we're going to have more like smaller companies. We have the potential to have more people almost like running AI as employees. So it's like you don't even need to be the next Microsoft or the next Google.
Right.
If you stay within a certain size where you can pivot and adapt to the new technology, you can run circles around the big companies.
That's a great point. Yeah, adaptability in this point, it's going to become this thing where it's not how big your company is, it's how adaptable. The reason I brought up like Microsoft and all that was because they came up with an effective business strategy that always allowed them to survive. And they were able to adapt by, I mean, growth was adaptation at that point. Not adaptation, but it was like growth was the thing to be successful. Now adaptability is the thing to be successful, and being able to have enough, flows of income that if one fad dies off, then you're not, stuck under, right? That's where we're seeing a lot of these companies that are based around crypto and AI. They're falling off and dying, like you mentioned before. But if you had an adaptable business strategy, that's the thing that's going to keep you alive. You might have, 5 people working at your company, but that company can, pivot towards the next big thing in like a week, and you could have a working prototype of whatever product or whatever, So yeah, you're very much right there.
My mouse is like taking the biggest crap right now. Like lagging out so hard. It's like hurting my hand. It's like trying to make it not like glitch out right now.
Is it like wireless?
Yeah. It's relatively no, I have not had any issues with it until right this second.
Maybe the battery, or I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. So if you hear a gunshot, get it.
You can always alt tab through all your stuff.
If you don't like, one thing that's interesting is like Windows still has a ton of its keyboard navigation for accessibility purposes. So like, and none of it has really changed over the past 20 years. So like, you could technically use your computer. Like, there's some applications that don't play nice with it. But you could use your computer for the most part with just a keyboard. Half the time, if I'm like, working on a little mini server system or whatever, I'll just plug in a keyboard, not even worry about the mouse, because I can just navigate using just keyboard navigation. It's kind of cursed, but it works.
Well, I'm trying to make the Cosmic Fork Illustrator right now.
Okay.
People who are watching have probably seen me struggle. I keep undoing. I want to snap my mouse in half. Such a. Anyways, so
I'm recloning this. It's in the wrong. They put it in the wrong directory.
Oh, okay.
I'm fixing it now, and I'll upload.
Okay.
Like I said,
no, go ahead.
Oh, I'm bad at talking and actually doing work, but that's all right.
Okay.
I think that's
okay.
Good.
Another thing I wanted to bring up from a previous episode is Brad brought up it was probably a joke anyways, but he said that he wanted to make like a 12-minute song for Meatball.
12 minutes?
Yeah. But just for any game dev who's new to this, it's not a good idea to put a 12-minute song. Unreal actually won't let you. It'll probably be too big of a file.
Really?
And then Unity, I don't know if it would let you or not, but I've tried to upload big long songs before. Work out.
That's weird.
I gotta
figure it out now.
Certain...
I bet there's a way to do it.
Maybe.
But I'm gonna look at it later.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the file size, and then
Well, if you're gonna make it loopable, like you don't need 12 minutes, and you make it loopable for a mood, and then you can like transition into other, like if there's a boss music or something, you want to be able to transition into different music.
Yeah, what people use is this thing called stems. They're just like sections of songs.
Yeah, it's like one singular instrument or whatever, and you can layer them. I was also looking at writing a music system for Unreal Engine and releasing it on the marketplace that'll allow you to easily build like tracks, right, that you can put together, stitch them, and they'll loop certain areas. It's just, figuring out how to do that effectively through like without clipping or without it like, popping or whatever, because usually when you
Mm.
run from the ending of a stream to a beginning, it has to seek in memory. Um,
Oh, yeah,
so
that'd be
it's
interesting. You could do
yeah, there's
basically like a DAW, but like a DAW like GUI with different tracks,
well,
but
yeah, I was
but
thinking we could do it.
it's more like
You could actually do it like that. I wasn't
because
thinking exactly like a DAW, but that actually is a really cool idea. Building a
because
custom editor.
because then you could have like, okay, well, when you get in this area, you turn off this track, and it's like the drums, or like
Yeah,
turn
you could
different
build
tracks on and off.
sections. Yeah, like you could have a section, and then you could tell it what tracks are in that section. In the little kind of like FL Studio, where you can have like the different like tracks, and you could maybe like splice it up or whatever. That's
Mhm.
actually a really interesting idea. I didn't think of doing it that way. I was just thinking, more like here's a struct, and this struct is like, we have multiple instances of it.
Mhm.
Um, this is one section and one section. But yeah.
Well, and if you get the popping and stuff out of the way, make that easy first. Get the like make
Yeah.
it sound good,
Yeah.
and go from there if it's still interesting.
Yeah. Now there is like a looping thing in Unreal Engine, but the issue is having multiple tracks looping and lining up, with the because a lot of people do it by just like putting a like playing the sound and then delaying it and then playing the sound, like delaying the main thread uh by the amount of time that the song is and then playing it again, but sometimes you get that because you're using the main game thread instead of the audio thread. And so there's a lot of like stuff like that like you kind of have to take into account. So it'll probably take some C++ legwork working directly with the audio system.
Low level stuff, and there's tons
Yeah.
of libraries already out there that you can look at and borrow from. And
Yeah. The thing is, it seems like most studios, when they like build AAA games with Unreal Engine, they'll use something like Wise or Fmod, one of those like industry audio backends that already handle that stuff for you, so you don't have to build that. But I mean, I think Unreal Engine has a good enough audio system. It just needs a few of those pieces, like that music stuff I was talking about, that'll really like make it competitive.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you were trying to make your own, like I was mentioning the DAW, you'd kind of have to do your own, maybe even like your own stream handling and stuff, and like bring things into, because you don't want to do. There's probably some limitation on Unreal as far as like you're saying the audio stream. You don't want
Hmm.
to overloading that, so you probably have to handle.
Kind of mixing it down
Yeah.
into however, like, yeah, there's a lot of that you really have to take into account. But I mean, I think you could even just hook into their timeline editor for like animations and cinematics, because it does have where you can put audio into the tracks on cinematics.
Mhm.
Um, just basically build a version of that, child of that, and kind of work from there. Honestly, that's actually not a bad idea. It just requires the data format to be able to load
Mhm.
um, what samples are there, how long they, all of that good stuff. That's actually a really good idea. Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah,
Wow.
and we said it on live, so like I mean, we can't stop anyone from doing it, but I don't know.
Hell, if they do it, good on you. I
Right?
don't have to. It's one thing less thing I have to write.
That's how I look
Just
at it.
don't.
Like I have all these ideas. Like I've got a book full of stuff that I'm never gonna do.
Yeah,
So some of the stuff I'm just like, if someone hears me talking and just run with it,
yeah.
great. And if you do it in a way that I don't like, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll compete with you. But more than likely, I'm not. I'm not gonna get to everything, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, that's the
Dude,
thing.
my mouse needs to stop. This is so annoying. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of cool things you can music games and or audio in general that
Yeah.
hasn't been explored.
Yeah, we talked about a game idea where like the whole mechanics are based on music and like you,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah,
but we kind of
basically like
dropped it because it was like overcomplicated. But
yeah, it was basically like The Devil Went Down to Georgia meets like Elder Scrolls.
Interesting.
So like the main villain is literally like uh he like mocks you with music.
I love that.
And your character's a bard. So as you become a better musician, you become a better fighter against physical demon.
That'd be a good plot of a rhythm game.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the way I thought of it, that could totally work as a rhythm game, but I was thinking of it as like a puzzle game where like you have to solve puzzles using like very dynamic like pieces of like
Yeah.
And then if you know music theory, then you have an advantage on the puzzles because the solutions all sound like they all sound good, right? So it's not going to be just a mess of notes, right? It's going to be
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of rhythm games, it's something I've wanted to build for a long time. I don't know what I should design in terms of like, is it going to be lanes? Is it going to be like, O's where you click the circles in a certain pattern? What music is it going to be? Like, there's so many things, but like, I really have an interest in working on a rhythm game at some point. Um,
Have you ever seen those YouTube videos where it's like someone's playing the piano and the notes are falling down?
yeah,
I had an idea where you could build something like that,
that'd be cool.
and it's like it's like a real keyboard, and you hook a monitor up
Yeah.
to it, and then the notes fall, and you play along, and then you could do like, and anyone listening, go for it. I'm not going to
I
get to
think
this.
there is an app that teaches you to play piano, but it does it like a game kind of.
Oh, does it?
Is it like
But
Rocksmith,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
think so.
yeah. And
the thought I was going for is you could have, it's like a jukebox, and so you put a quarter in, right? So you get, and then it has like simplified versions of the melodies for all the like current songs or popular songs. So you can like you try to play it, but it's like a simple version, right? So um, so you can have different people of any level could like learn the basics.
Yeah. I think honestly Rocksmith was a really way they did it was really they had like different levels.
yeah,
I actually played that a while. I don't know what happened to the guitar that came with it.
there was a guitar that came with Rocksmith.
Yeah, it's like the biggest version of it, basically. I got it as like a
Um,
Christmas present that my mom probably couldn't afford.
damn,
She did anyway.
damn, yeah. Because I got Rocksmith, I just had a electric guitar that I never played, and
Hmm.
so I used that when I played it.
Yeah,
So
that's what was cool about it is you could use any guitar.
yeah, one time I even tried using a acoustic guitar with it that had a little plug, and it could barely recognize it. So definitely, if you're gonna play Rocksmith, I recommend using an electric guitar of some sort, setting it on the normal little setting if it's like a Stratocaster that has the different effects. Um,
Oh, I pushed all the
Apparently
stuff.
it's rare now.
Okay,
The
here
game.
I'll try to pull it. What's up, guys? Cosmic Meatball.
All right, so all the assets are there. So I'm going to those prefabs probably don't work. So I'm going to play with those and see if I can get them working, or make new ones, and then we'll go from there. I've got
Alright.
about an hour and a half.
All right. See what we can do. Yeah, for those watching slash listening, maybe we don't get the project done, but I'll put a post or a video, something, of how you can play the game. It's going to be totally free. Uh,
I'll probably put it on itch.io, just like a free demo.
yeah.
And I'm going to use this as a test bed for NFT stuff. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, and we kind of plan to kind of do projects like this every once in a while. just to kind of like show people who are new, or I guess if you're just interested in
Yeah.
game devs.
Or like maybe if we like come up with a feature, we could like do a feature showcase or something like here's this thing we made and here's all the code, here's how it works.
Yeah.
And we could have the code done beforehand instead of trying to talk about AI while you're coding.
Oh yeah, and the twist for this game, it's not just a Flappy Bird clone. We wanted to implement where you could fight back. So instead of pipes like Flappy Bird, we have the forks. So they're trying to eat the meatball, but the meatball has a toothpick. So you can, I guess the simplest version of it would like playing on mobile, you would like swipe. But for now, we'd probably do like an action button.
Yeah.
Then, you basically just save yourself if you time it. Just
Oh, I made a background with Midjourney. Do you want to use that one since because this is just going to be a free download? That's one interesting thing because
I haven't seen it. Or
I sent it in chat, but it's probably way up there. I'll probably have to. I'll just check it in somewhere. But the thing we ran into was Steam is denying games with AI assets. So that's the thing. If you want to use AI assets, you have to like edit them and try to make them your own, and like hide it. But if they figure it out, I don't know what.
I wonder how much of that falls under what's the copyright thing?
Fair use.
Yeah, fair use. So if you edit it enough, does that fall under fair use?
I don't know. Well, the thing is, like if I generate something with AI and try to upload like one image to the Copyright Office, they've already decided that they're not going to allow you to copyright it. And then somebody else, what did they try to do? I can't remember if it was a patent or a copyright. They filed it and tried to credit AI as the owner of it, and they denied that. So that's good because then at least now the AI companies aren't just going to own everything, right? So like say I generate something in AI, I can't copyright it, but I also can't stop you from using it. So is it all fair use?
I don't know.
Character, someone owns that character. Well, that's still their intellectual.
You're cutting out on my end.
For their branding.
I feel like that falls on the same property as like in Coral, and like say Mr. Muffin, great, amazing 3D modeler, builds the Spartan. Well, it's still the Halo Spartan, regardless of whether he built it or an AI generated it, or but it still falls under Microsoft's game usage rules. If the court can prove that it looks or that it's close enough to like this is infringing copyright, I feel like an existing one, I feel like that doesn't change whether the AI made it or not. You know? Like if the AI makes it, if it looks exactly like Master Chief, then it's Master Chief. It doesn't, there's no question about it. So, I actually talked about that on the episode that Tori and I were on. That was something like my take on AI and its copyright. It's like it doesn't matter what tool was used to make it. It doesn't matter what if it was a human or an AI. If it looks like if a human were to make the same thing and it would fall into someone else's copyright or like look like something else, someone else's copyright, then it's their copyright regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So
but say you use AI to generate a new character, right? You say, okay, I want this anthropomorphic mole or something, and it's got 3 arms and wears a red hat or something, right? So it's a brand new character, and then you can set it up now if you use like the seed that it was to generate it. You can keep the same character and regenerate it multiple angles and stuff. So is that your character? Or so that's a question. But another thing that the copyright office said is that there was I forget her name, but she's making comic books with AI, and so they did agree that if the work overall can be copyrighted, so
That's
each
what I was
individual
thinking.
image that she made is not
Can't
copyrightable,
be,
but
but
the whole comic book as a whole, she can copyright that.
yeah, or like the game idea itself, right? With a
Mm-hmm.
franchise, just because the AI generated a picture or a character doesn't mean that they can't copyright the franchise, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of the idea. And I was thinking the same thing before you mentioned it because, I feel like it's one of those things where like if you came up with the idea of this character, all of the thing, all of the descriptions and details and the AI was the artist, yeah, you might not be able to copyright what the AI developed in terms of the design, but if you had a human artist create the thing with the same specification, that can be copyrighted to you, and effectively that's your idea regardless. Now the AI might be used in the concepting phase to create. You might not be able to concept or copyright the concept, but you could copyright a human creation based off the concept.
Yeah,
That's
and
at least.
we've already been doing that. Was it so Brad, or he goes by Shadow Buddy, and we've been sending Spurdunky, hey, check this guy out. It's like a weird alien thing, and there's already been some characters where, um, and you can tell me more about it, but where the AI kind of concepts influence the character, right?
Mhm.
Like what's that guy Hayden, the long
Long
armed
armed,
alien with the yellow.
long armed alien with the yellow.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
In the prequel game,
Oh,
wasn't
like
he? Was it that built part of based on
based on
like he
AI?
like you had the character already made, but
Mm-hmm.
then we sent you some prototypes in there, and then you came back with like similar to what the AI had.
Oh, so for the enemies for um
Demoto
Moto
prequel.
Legends. Yeah, so I did take some concepts from some things you guys sent me, and I
Mhm.
just made them spedunkyized.
Yeah, but the
Um,
character the enemy is yours. Like
hmm
you amalgamated all this stuff from different influences, like from
hmm
real life or media, or every story's kind of been told already. We're just kind of remixing things and making new characters.
Yeah.
And so AI is already kind of we're already kind of using it, not all the time, not exclusively or anything, but
hmm Yeah. So, um, yeah, I'll say the way I explained the story originally, Brad had a different idea of what he thought they would be
hmm
than what I did, and he thought of them more as like these uh, big gut mechanic um, biker lizards, basically.
hmm
And I didn't really fully see him that way, but once he kind of said that, I was like, that kind of fits in a weird way, and it's kind of cool and different.
hmm
And then he like came up with like this AI art concepts, and I kind of liked the vibe, so integrated that idea with my idea.
hmm
Kind of made a whole or fledged, not fledged.
fully
Uh,
fledged, fleshed out.
yeah, more fleshed out idea for like
hmm
this like band of enemies.
hmm And then, did you end up using remember that yellow outlining stuff that I sent you? Did you end up using that?
No, I didn't. I was gonna use that for.
Mm.
Okay, so yeah, the meatball artwork is in the project, um, but you don't have a scene set up where like the ball works.
Yeah, I'm recreating that right now.
Oh, okay. Did you use the sample scene at all?
I think it's still just empty.
Yeah. I accidentally messed with it, so I don't know if
That's
that's
fine.
gonna cause anything.
Well, I'll make a main one, and then I'll make one and put my name on it.
I made one that says Spridunky.
And I don't know if that's even relevant anymore. Is this that's something that I picked up a while back? Was that if you're using Unity and you're both working on the same project, if you're changing different scenes, then you're going to have less issues with the artifacts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
If y'all need Unity help, I've worked in Unity for years. Coral used to be in it for like 3 or 4 years before we moved over to Unreal Engine. So that plus working on some other projects in Unity, I feel even more comfortable working in Unity than I do in Unreal Engine. But I do understand that Unreal Engine does have a lot more of like it's got the built-in replication and all the things that would be better for the projects that were the scale of the projects that Coral and CoralWave were trying to build. So that's honestly one of the biggest reasons for pushing to use UE5.
Mhm.
But
Well, it probably just depends on the project. Like UE5 is made for shooters, so
mhm.
and it makes sense there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, was artwork on? I think I just had the meatball in the Turk folder. There was a PSB. I don't know if that's.
Yeah. The
You just have a new
artwork.
version.
The artwork is in the file. It's just not set up the way that we had it before. My mouse is making me want to die, though.
We're gonna have to like build you a completely new setup. We'll give you everything you need.
I checked in that background. It should be tileable.
Alright, I got the meatballs hair fluff thing. Doesn't really have hair, but
I gotta say, Unity's not my absolute favorite. So my background is more just like coding where I can control everything.
Yeah,
And there's no, and part of Unity is you kind of just have to black box a big chunk of it.
exactly.
You don't know what it's doing. There's all these artifacts. You don't know why they're there or how to avoid certain problems. You just kind of have to work around it and kind of figure it out. And I'm sitting there going, how much time is this really saving me when I could just, grab a library and, start from, more low level,
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's the thing is like, I actually that was one of the big things with using Unity was like, they had all this like character system and other, all this other stuff, and it's like you don't know how any of it works, right? They don't give you the source code. You can't read what everything does. I mean, yeah, I guess you can look at like the function declarations, and spend your time like, digging through the method declarations trying to see how everything works, but it's such a pain in the butt when you try to do anything just related to anything. That's what it feels like. You can write your own bubble of code, and it's like you feel like you have to be extending core functionality through the scripting system. And what's the difference between the scripting system and the low level engine? There isn't really one. You kind of have to make that separation yourself. So if you want to build like scripting for like, oh, I'm scripting levels, all that stuff, I either have to write my own interpreter or do all my level scripting in C sharp. And that C sharp is in the same space as all of your core systems, and it's just it's kind of gross in that way. I'm not a huge fan of how Unity handles its that's one of the bigger reasons why I stopped using it was their poor kind of management of all that. But
and that's just
some
like
people
that's
make
like
it work.
it's. I think you said you have a coding background, but
Yeah.
For someone that just wants to they just want to focus on animations or they just want to focus on right. So like if you actually want to work in game dev, you kind of have to like focus on like a specialty, right? Unless you're going to be a solo dev, obviously you can do whatever you want. But it still is a good tool, and it's easy to kind of get up and running and get a basic game running, and they've got the multiple platform thing down. There's a lot of tools as far as handling animations and 2D and stuff. But yeah, when you dig down into that level, if you're used to working low level and being able to control everything, you just end up with this big black box, and it's like, I'm not really sure what's going on in here. But when I tinker over here, it works, and when I do it differently, it doesn't work. And so it's like a learning process to figure out exactly what you can get away with and what you can't. And
and part of the what you can get away with and what you can't is like sometimes you have to do things the BS way for it to work. And that was really annoying because it's like I have an idea for a system. I know it would work correctly if I do it all this way, but like, I have to work around the black box, like you said, and like, it also, you can do a lot of things the proper way, or you can BS it and get something done super quick and it would kind of suck, but it'll work. And I mean, you could put your entire game logic in a single file if you really wanted to. You can't really do that with Unreal Engine. With everything, the way that everything is set up, you kind of have to do it the right way to some extent. I mean, I'm not saying that it always is that, but it's not as bad as Unity, because let me just say I was working on a project, a little college project at one point, and we wrote the entirety of everything in a single file. We generated the tiles, the player movement, everything was done. Getting the input from the tilt on the phone, like all of that was in a single file. And that one script ran, and that was the worst, like, to debug, because error occurred in, x.cs, where in, I mean, yeah, it tells you the line, I guess, but like, I don't know, it's just, you can get away with just kind of some like things that are like cardinal programming sins. So that on top of just poor management is not a huge fan.
And that was part of my frustration, like coming from coding background. Like I know how to make like organize things, and then you go to watch like beginner level tutorials for like Unity or something, and the level of code, and not all of them, like there's plenty of competent, I'm not dogging on anybody, but following some of that beginner code, and like I'm already trying to fix the code before I've got the thing running, and it's like it's like I hate how they did this. Let's let's make this a little more. And some of that's like, it's obviously, if you're learning, that's premature optimization. You don't need to do that, but it can be frustrating when you have that expertise and you're trying to break into a different domain, and a lot of the beginner level expertise is not, like, the code is just not it's not to that level, and so you're trying to, and it's like, and then you got to try to hunt out, okay, well, what's a good way to actually do it, right? How do I set this up in a way that actually makes sense, right? And I got to dig through just tons of examples where it's kind of a hack job, but at the end of the day, the players don't care. They don't care what language you wrote it in. They don't care if you made it in Unity or
unless you're me.
Well, yeah, you, but I mean,
but no, most people don't care. I know what you mean. Though I also am not. I know people that are worse at that. Like, your game was made in Unity. I'm not going to touch it. Like,
Yeah, it's just, that's
the game dev circle, and people just being kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but I know what you mean.
It's probably just easy to make a simple game and, like, use store assets and get a simple game out. And then there's not very much to it. It's not very long.
If you don't care about networking or, like, networked multiplayer in any way, if you don't care about proper AI, if you don't care about, a really sophisticated sound engine, if you don't care about, having a really good UI, like, Unity will be just fine. But if you care about any of those pillars, that's where, like, because with Unreal Engine you have like Blackboard and behavior trees built in. You
Mhm.
could get a plugin to do that for Unity. Same thing with getting mirror networking, and now you have all of these pieces that aren't built into the engine and tested and funded with the Fortnite money, that you kind of have to like work around.
Mhm.
That's kind of the thing that's like, as much as I'm not like the biggest Fortnite guy, um, it's funded. The end, like they've put a lot of money back into the engine and allow you to use so many of these like industry standard tools for free. Um, and that doesn't mean that like, if you don't need all that other stuff that I've just mentioned, like Unity's just fine for your game, but you kind of have to like, understand. I feel like people have to understand the risk before, they can't just say, okay, I want to make a game, I'm opening up Unity and we're building the game. Like, I think that like you kind of have to take more into account than just
Mhm.
I want to make a game when you're choosing an engine, because you could just, if you're an experienced developer, you can kind of make anything work. We wrote our own networking,
Mhm.
like we're using
Yeah.
Protobuf, but that also
Mhm.
required native binaries like DLL files and stuff, to
Mhm.
be compiled and then loaded into Unity, which made it incompatible with Mac and Linux and Android and all that. Yeah, then you would have to compile everything for each own, all of the different whatchamacallit, different platforms, um where like we did the same thing for X input because there was like no X input support back in the day when we were doing it in Unity.
Mhm.
So we wrote a custom X input with vibration support. So when you played on the controller, you could actually just you could assign the controller, and then vibration would work when you fire your weapon and all that. But you have to do all that yourself. If you don't have a programmer that knows how to, make native extensions to
Mhm.
do functionality like that, then you're stuck to this very simple, you
Mhm.
know, oh, I'm gonna make a ball jump on some tiles kind of
Mhm.
game.
Yeah. Well, and what if you look at like what a game is, you can make a fun game with simple tech, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
um it's not going to be the next like Grand Theft Auto or something, but you can make a puzzle game, word game. There's tons of I don't want to discourage anyone that's just getting started.
Of
You got to
course.
start somewhere. And if you don't know anything, Unity's an easy way to pick up and run, or Godot, or there's Python libraries, or Game Maker is one. And you can't, a lot of these things you can't get down on the source code. Well, Godot you can, but like Game Maker, you're kind of like if there's a bug uh, in
You
the
have to
engine,
wait for them to fix it.
yeah, or like rewrite big, potentially big chunks of your game to try to fix it. Um, but there's plenty of fun games that could sell well, right, with these other
Yeah.
tools that are easy to use. But yeah, for like, but just it's like kind of like informational from like a coder's perspective that these are the things that annoy us.
Yeah,
So
like you have to
Unity, if
take
you're
this into
listening,
account.
Unity, if you're listening, uh, they're not, but
Yeah, if they were to
it's
listen, I would just look at the people that are being very successful building certain areas of the engine and see how you can deeply integrate that into your own engine, because the package manager was pretty good. Um, I know a lot of people were like, some people love the package manager, some people hate it. I think it was a good push to be able to have, okay, how do you have a easy, consistent system for people
Mhm.
to be able to, modularly install functionality into the, at a lower level than just, throwing some script files into your project. So that was a good thing, but I do think, investing um, into the people that kind of like make Unity more on par with other engines now. Um, that's a very very big thing. I think also figuring out a way to build. I would like some sort of scripting language that's not scripting as in like classes and like I'm building core like game functionality.
Mhm.
Having some sort of like interpreted scripting language that I could use to quickly manipulate game objects at runtime would be awesome. So like level scripting, think of it like like in Halo's engine, that you have like, you would write the engine in C++, but then they had Halo script and it was its own version of Lisp. Now I'm not saying to use Lisp, but having some sort of quick scripting language that I can say, okay, I have built all of these classes, they have all of these things. I would just like a simple language that I can kind of just say, when the level starts, do these things and have a continuously, running function to see if I enter this trigger volume, and if so, then trigger, one of my scripts functions or something, like, one of my helper script functions or something, without having to write that all out in the same, C sharp that, and it is something like that would be really helpful. That would, I think, is something that's missing from both Unreal Engine and Unity, because Unreal Engine, you have the level blueprint, which is very helpful. That was one of the big things that made me want to use Unreal Engine, was the fact that each level had its own logic attached to it. Still not exactly the way I like it. Again, where like a scripting language would probably be better in that sense instead of a blueprint, but either way, you get the point. You can reference level assets directly in your script and say, okay, this level asset, if someone enters this level asset, spawn these actors and do this functionality. I feel like it's something that like wouldn't be too hard to add, but would add a lot of value to the developer who, might have to build their own system to accommodate for each level having different, things going on in it. You know what I mean? Like, you want a dynamic element in your level, you either have to build a separate class and then have it all like each thing running individually, or you could just have like, because that's what a lot of people do. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that ideology. I kind of like how, you can control every little area of the experience per level, by having that scripting backend. But that's probably the biggest thing that, like, if I were to go back to Unity, it would, that would probably be one of the biggest things, because then you could build content, for your level just in this own little sandbox without having to mess with any of the programmer code.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So,
and if
I don't know.
If anyone wants to do it, you could probably do a plugin and do at least get the functionality. Maybe you can't. Like you said with Unity, maybe part of that's in the black box.
Yeah, we actually built our own command function system for Coral back in the day. So we actually had a console. You could actually you could like set the ammo on weapons, you could spawn things, you could enable different modifiers for the players. Like, it was really cool, building that kind of system and just having an interpreter for something along those lines. You just register your functions to do certain things on certain scripts, and then have a thing that'll interpret and run said function, or run said script function thingies. Then you're golden. But I guess I also come from a different programming / game development world than a lot of people, because a lot of people do build those games that you were talking about, like the smaller puzzle games and all that kind of stuff. But people see that world and think, okay, I can build, like you said, the next Grand Theft Auto in Unity, and all that stuff. And it's like, if you're looking at that scale, those are usually the developers that I'm working with, the people that want to build the next big like video game. If you're wanting to go that scale, then just start with Unreal Engine. But if you're okay with building smaller games, and not that they're, the size of the game is bad, you don't need a good game. Is a game that's just right. It's not a game it's not the biggest game or the most complex game. It's the game that you want to make, and it's the game that has a fun, addicting gameplay loop. So, but like, don't go to Unity if you're trying to make the next big thing. If you just want to learn how to make a simple game, Unity is going to be just fine for you.
Yeah, or even Godot. Godot has
Godot, yeah.
It's really lightweight, and I haven't spent a lot of time with it, but I like how lightweight it is. And supposedly they've got some newer compatibility with Blender. They fixed some of those issues, and they've got some better like Vulkan-based graphics.
Interesting.
but I haven't played with it very much.
Mm-hmm. The only issue with Godot is that looking at it, it's like there's not the documentation isn't as great, so there's not really much in there in terms of like guides. Um, so like how do I build this kind of game, or how do I, design this system within the context of Godot? Because Godot has a lot of things. It's kind of confusing jumping into it without any knowledge, prior, and I've worked in both Unreal Engine and Unity, so jumping into Godot and being lost, like, I can't imagine how somebody who hasn't worked in any engine before is trying to understand this engine, like, what do you do? Yeah, you can do scripts like Unity, but like, how do I write, transformation code that sways the arm around a character when you're looking around? And, do you do it like a manual, like you would in Unity? Do you like, build it the Unreal way? I mean, I know it's not either way in the end of the day, but like, I learned those ways by seeing either other people do it or the developers of the engine explaining, like, this is kind of how you do it in our engine. And there isn't really much of that in Godot,
So
at least from what I've seen.
Sorry to interrupt, but the project's not letting me make any saves.
That's weird. Are there errors?
There are. It says error while saving prefab. So, it's missing the script.
So, yeah. So this.
What did you name the script?
Which prefab?
For Turk. The turkey meat.
Turk uses the meat flap script.
Perfect.
So I'm rebuilding the level right now, and I'm dragging all the scripts in. It's trying, and it can't see the old scripts.
Yeah, just saved. So. Let me see what happens when I press play.
Probably not.
Apps like Flappy Bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just need to set up the
there we go.
So in the animator, I have the parameters. You just have to call on them. So I have a hurt trigger, push the changes, and see if it all breaks.
What are the assets that you added? Are they just art type stuff?
I didn't add anything.
Okay, so let me push.
The art was already there.
All right, let me push right now. I'm going to push first.
All right.
Because I got the main running. There's errors, but at least it runs.
So yeah, we probably won't have time to add the forks, but I think people get the idea.
Yeah, I've got the forks working. As far as they're janky, but they're spawning.
Yeah,
I feel like I changed more than 3 files. So what's going on here?
I don't know.
That's one of the weird things. Is like I changed a bunch of prefabs. I made a new seed, but there's only 3 changes here. So I don't know. We'll check it in and see what happens. This is that black box I'm talking about.
What do you mean by black box?
Like a lot of times in coding, right? You could write a package that handles, I don't know, math or something, but you wouldn't because there's just tons of them that already exist. Or like networking, maybe if you didn't want to do it from scratch, maybe there's a package that you bought that can handle networking. You don't need to understand everything inside of there, and so you can treat it as a black box and just kind of. Now with Unity code, I'm calling it a black box because we just don't have access to the code. And so, like, I changed a bunch of stuff in the scenes, but there's only 3 files changed, and that seems weird to me that I'm checking in 3 files. But it's like meta files and settings, and it's like Unity took all of my changes and boiled it down to these 3 files, and I don't know how it did that or how any of that works.
Okay.
And that's where someone that so I'm going to check in and we'll see what happens, basically.
Okay. I'm waiting.
And I added a main scene.
Oh, okay.
And then when I go to add, I'm going to add the score, I think, and I'll make a new scene while I work on new stuff. All right, so it's there. We'll see. Hopefully this works.
All right. Pulling origin. Error the
and I'm gonna
untracked working tree files would be.
Yeah, so in the other game that we're working on, I've just been, since my changes are just scripts, I've just been accepting whatever you're pushing, and then I just changed individual scripts, and that seems to work. But I haven't figured out all the
Okay, I pushed
intricacies.
my changes as well, and I'm gonna read
Okay.
the project.
All right, I'm gonna step away for a minute.
Okay.
Be right back.
Been looking at some of the old Unity code for Coral and realizing that we kind of actually knew what we were doing in a way.
Classic. Oh, got some scary pipe action going. Oh, I died. There. So I don't know if you saw on the stream, some pipes spawned on top of each other. Oh, right. Mike's not here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Got these happen the same both times. But I guess I can work on the not picking up the separate files.
Huh.
Right.
All right, my coffee's brewing. I'm not gonna drop it this time. Is it broken?
A little bit. So for some reason it will spawn forks on top of each other. It did it the same twice in a row.
Well, yeah, that's you can look at there's the speed and then the position of the original fork we can edit. And so
okay.
that's just I was just trying to get something going, just something
Okay.
on. We can edit the parameters easily.
Yeah. On top of that, for some reason it's not recognizing the layers in this Photoshop file, so now I have to make some sprite sheet.
Oh, so it should import, right? Like,
Yeah.
would you just have to re-import it, or
It's
is there something
should,
about that file that?
I don't know. I'm gonna look. The Turk one works just fine. It's just not recognizing the different thing. Only pot texture.
This is a small enough project where we can kind of just go fast and loose and throw spaghetti at the wall, and it's easy to fix.
Good thing you have meatballs to top it off.
Exactly.
Yeah. The original enemy were noodles in the old version of this. Yeah, you were talking about a rhythm game earlier, and it reminded me of. I was trying to think of how to make games that. So one example would be like a fighting game, right? If you look at someone's hands while they're playing a fighting game, they're doing combos, they're attacking and blocking and stuff. Could you come up with a hypothetical game where if you look at the people playing, you look at their controllers, it looks like they're playing a fighting game. But if you look at the screen, it looks like something totally different. Right?
Interesting.
And so one concept I came up with was you could have a rhythm game where it's like a side-scrolling shooter or something, where you're not doing rhythm as far as like Guitar Hero, but if you play the level perfectly, the random sounds and stuff happening from like the enemies blowing up and stuff makes a beat and makes a song. So each level is a song.
Interesting.
But you play it in the form of like another game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you could
That's a really cool idea.
And you could take that with any concept. Like you could take like I don't know, like Mario, right? If the fastest way through a level is usually just sprinting the whole way, and so you can make a song out of that, and then so it becomes a rhythm game, and you could have music and stuff with it. But it's not a rhythm game. It's not a guitar game. It's not a drum game.
Yeah, it's not built to resemble a rhythm game. It has rhythm, but it's not a rhythm game.
There's a shooter that's a rhythm.
Oh, is there? Maybe someone already did it. Lockpicking in Skyrim doesn't count as a rhythm game. Sorry.
Oh. All right, I fixed it. The art is.
Oh, cool. All right, I'm gonna get my coffee real quick. I'm not gonna spill it.
I think we'll finish it off screen probably, and then I'll just make a small video going over what we did, show where people can download it.
Yeah.
Probably just be itch, but maybe one day we'll on mobile. Maybe if we have a bunch of Spredunky and Friends games, we'll just put them together or something.
Yeah, make like a collection of small Spredunky games and then like put them on like Google Play and Apple App Store. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Have a little option to support developer,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta look into that stuff myself for CoreWave stuff, so I don't know how much you know about the publishing process.
I mean, I know a little bit just from looking into it, but I've never actually done.
For anyone interested in Unity networking, one of the backends for Mirror, one of the relay transport backends, is Epic Online Services.
Huh.
That's kind of a shocker. The better ways to do networking in Unity is to use Epic Games.
So, for anyone watching, how could they find jobs?
I'm on Discord, so if y'all use Discord, it's just Jabobs, capital J and a capital B, and the 2735 is the discriminator. So if you want to add me as a friend, I'm also in the Corolla Halo fan game public Discord server, so you can find me there. And for people watching later on, after Discord changes their username, it's probably just going to be at Jabobs or at Jabob01. So that's probably going to be my new username once they roll that system out. Discord's the best way to get a hold of me if you want to talk to me. If it's just if you just want to go to Twitter or whatever, I have a Twitter page. I think it's official Jabobs or whatever, because some random dude signed up for at Jabobs in 2009 and hasn't used the Twitter page since then.
Is it Nate Jabobs?
Actually, let me look.
It's at official Jbobs.
Yeah.
Your name is
my I think it says Nate and Jabobs on as the actual name, but the username is I mean, honestly, if you just look up Jabobs, you're gonna see all of my socials. That's how I go by online. I'm not guaranteed to respond on every platform, but I will say if you do add me as a friend on Discord, I will accept it. And if y'all want to talk about game dev or hop into the Coral Discord server, which you can do that by a quick Google search, or if you want me to send you the link, if you want to put the invite for the Coral Discord server in there so people can just have a link to click.
We can put some of this stuff in YouTube description and stuff when we get the edited version out. I thought I had joined a while back, but I was just kind of...
You did. What's the script for the fork? Move forks?
Which one? So the
prefab fork.
The prefab fork is move forks, yeah. And it goes on the parent option. North Forks Games.
Alright, for some reason the hand part isn't working, but I put some fingers on there's the hand.
Did it shrink?
No, it's just because the art for now, so people can see.
It's that big art energy.
Big art energy. Oh god,
there it goes.
Just as frustrating as real Flappy Bird.
Yeah, there's some parameters in there that we can tweak.
People get the idea. I will do a follow-up video. I'll push the changes, and then do you want to set up the image or the flaps?
The what? Oh, here are the flaps?
No, just the ability to call the fact that your velocity is 0 below 0.
Oh, it should already flap. I mean, if you just played it, right, and you flew?
He does flap, but it just doesn't do the animation that I set up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, yeah, that's not there yet. Yeah. So, what is the... You said you checked your stuff in?
Yeah, I did. So
I'll grab it, and then I'll look at I guess it's in the animation thing.
And then the trigger for when you get hurt.
Oh, and then the animation, yeah. So animation, they're not called yet. Were you going to make a separate top fork?
Yeah. I was working on it earlier for the stream, but they get the idea of what it's like.
Were there any other animations that you had to do?
There's no more animations that we need to do, but there was just some flares and zazz.
Oh, like at the attack and stuff. So, okay. So what I'll do tonight is I'll get the animations called and maybe add a score. And is yours resetting properly, or is it error?
There were errors for whatever reason, the scripts weren't attached.
Yeah.
But I just reattached them and it seemed to work fine.
And there's a game manager object that I keep adding to the main scene, but it keeps getting deleted. That it helps you respawn. So that already works. We just gotta get it to stick in Subversion.
Yeah, on my end it wouldn't.
Okay, so we gotta figure that part out. But
okay,
So it works, but we just got to get it into versioning.
All right.
So yeah, it's just
Well-
about there.
Yeah, maybe I'll release this, the edited version of this. We have that ready. I'll just add an intro or like an outro. You can play this game now.
Yeah, and maybe I'll do a like a testnet NFT where anyone can get it and do something with that.
All right.
Like if you have the NFT, you wear a hat or something. I don't know. Or changes something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just it's a proof of concept.
Yeah, and for anyone watching, really appreciate it if you interact with our stuff. Give us a like if you're watching. Follow, subscribe, whatever. Leave a comment.
I got a weird idea to pitch if you want to hear it.
Let's hear it.
So there's lots of people that want to make games. They don't know how to get started.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of companies out there that it's really difficult to get your foot in the door that first job, whether it's coding or whatever. Everyone wants to make games. What if we set up a Discord where it's like open internship, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a little company, and then J-Bobs, I don't know, you guys have company form. We could like have a Discord set up with interns, and it's a place where anyone can go and get foot in the door, get some experience, get some code on GitHub or make an animation or and then anything that they do in there it has to be like MIT license or something so that we could all use it. Anyone that's in there could use it and we could all use it.
That'd be interesting, like a kind of like an initiative to
it's
help
like
people in. Yeah.
It's like an open internship, and it's like an actual company, right? It's like I don't have the budget to pay anybody. It's not a paid internship, but it's you can show up and there's stuff to do. You can redo stuff that other people have already done. Like we can come up with like learning tracks, and we can get. So what do we get out of it? We build a talent pool. We get indie devs making games, right? They can be guests.
Mm-hmm.
We get code that we can intern. A lot of intern code is not good code, obviously, but that's why they're interns. But it's a starting point. And it's a place where, like with AI and everything taking off, it's like an incubator for learning and talent and networking.
Mm-hmm. That's a big thing.
And if you're somebody that's experienced, you can come in and help out the interns, right? Or maybe you're experienced in testing. One thing with coding is a lot of people they'll go learn to code and they'll they'll kind of get stuck in this testing role, and then that goes on the resume, and then they go to apply for a coding role. Well, they're a tester. They're stuck there kind of until they get right. It'd be a way to kind of branch out and learn cross become cross-functional. If it's something where maybe you went to school to be an animator or like an artist or designer, and you're kind of just at this place where you just make textures all day and you're bored out of your mind and you hate it.
Yeah,
right? It's a place to kind of, hey, let's do something a little more, right?
Well, I think that's an idea we could expand on. We will, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
But for now, if you're watching this and want to